Well, the countdown to the THA election continues. December 6th is right around the corner. It's actually on Monday. So,
so this is it.
This is it. This is the final lap, the final stretch of... early in the week on Tuesday, we had a leader of the Innovative Democratic Alliance, Dr. 𝐀𝐫𝐨𝐮𝐧𝐝 Angus, joining us. And this morning, we have the deputy political leader of the Progressive Democratic Patriots, Dr. Faith B. Israel, joining us via Zoom. You see, I didn't get it mixed up this time. I said People's last time, but People's, Progressive, we're all on the same line.
Morning. Thank you.
Morning.
Yes. So we are a couple of days before the election. Very exciting times in Tobago. It's nice and sunny here, so it's a wonderful time. I am excited. I kind of want Monday to come and be over with, so that we can go back to some form of normal in the middle of a pandemic. Normal.
Well, do we have to wait for elections for that?
Well, so now that we're almost there, and you could argue not all, but a good chunk of the campaigning has gone through. There's been talk that this election is somewhat historic. 3 more seats. The implications of it, we don't even necessarily know yet. This might be one of those moments in history where we see history as being started, a new phase for the country and for the island. Has there been any sort of emotional resonance within the population? Do they kind of feel that way too? Or is it to them, it's like, look, this is just another THA election that we need to get done so that the THA could run and we could have problems solved? Is it a little bit of both?
I think people are excited. The difference is in Tobago, we just came out of the January election where we've had the 6-6 tie. And since then, after Tobagonians recognized that we couldn't figure out as big people, the 12 of us, how to work together, that they wanted to be decisive. So I think Tobagonians are actually pretty excited about this election because they want to make a final decision to then go back to having the THA running normally. So we're actually getting a level of excitement that I really have not seen in previous elections, and I am also excited about that.
Well, adding to that, as I said, Dr. 𝐀𝐫𝐨𝐮𝐧𝐝 Angus joined us. Now it's 45 candidates, 15 seats, 3 main parties, and you have single candidates from other parties in this race as well. Dr. 𝐀𝐫𝐶𝐶 Angus said that the IDA is really the only choice for Tobagonians, and I suppose other parties will make the argument, no, that's not true. But the general feeling on the ground is that this is neck and neck between the PDP and the PNM. And as you said, it's now down to people having to make a final decision after that 6-6 tie in January. What is the general... As I said, the NACTA poll suggests it's neck and neck. The PNM is slightly ahead. Are you hearing anything different on the ground?
We are hearing something completely different on the ground. And if you realize, I am not sure what methodology NACTA uses because they have proven themselves to be so wrong so many times. Right now, in January, for example, the NACTA poll said that we were going to lose, or it was going to be an 11-1 defeat is what the NACTA poll said. Lo and behold, we came out 6-6. And that is what we were hearing on the ground, that we were tight, and if we pushed, we could have won. This time, you're hearing the NACTA poll saying that we are neck and neck. And what we are hearing on the ground is that, no, you all are not neck and neck. The PDP is actually going to win. So what we think is happening is that they're actually trying to use this NACTA poll as a way to try to switch voters, or to way to try to keep voters from coming to the polls or something, instead of presenting what they are really saying. Now, the other thing you may be experiencing is people not necessarily being honest when people randomly call and ask them questions about who they're going to vote for, particularly since in Tobago, we've had such a high culture of victimization, particularly if you say anything against the PNM, the level of victimization that people have actually physically experienced is significant. So we do know that people tend to not answer these questions accurately or honestly when asked by some random person calling them. The feeling we are getting on the ground is that Monday night, the PDP will come out victorious. We cannot say, or we will not prefer, the number of seats, but we will get at least 8 seats so that we will be able to control the Tobago House of Assembly.
And I think people who might want to maybe disbelieve that notion, and we need to understand that happens here too, whichever the government of the day is, if you kind of, try to swim upriver, so to speak, you will have a harder time engaging in certain contracts business, and then depending, that might be legitimate. You're a legitimate service provider now who lost an important customer to your business model. But I have to ask, so, you're hearing this on the ground. Now, it's somewhat of a two-part question. First, I want to ask specifically, in Tobago, the pandemic as an issue, as an election issue, because it didn't seem to be as big of an issue in the last THA election, right? We didn't have the same problems with COVID as we had then. Has that been a bigger talking point on the election, on the campaign circuit for the people of Tobago? Has that been an issue for them, as we have seen locally now with the question of mandatory vaccinations? We had a big protest in Trinidad. Do we have anything similar in Tobago?
So we have we do have people who are pushing back, and people have really been saying that the management of COVID from the national level, Trinidad and Tobago, and specifically in Tobago, has not been great. And they have been really, really speaking about how bad things are. And I have said on this program several times that if you think it's bad in Trinidad, when you look at the size of Tobago with the numbers that we have and so forth, it's really, really, really bad. It's worse than what's happening in Trinidad, and people are very aware of that. The thing is that Tobagonians are not the kind who would do the protesting that you normally see, like what you saw in Trinidad a day or two ago. Tobagonians don't traditionally do that kind of protesting, and I know that many of them are just waiting. We protest with our finger, we protest with our the index finger on election day. Tobagonians tend to be quiet and pulled back, but watching keenly and making a very clear decision in their heads. They may not speak about it loudly, but they know what they are going to do. And that is why we really, really are confident that the fact that you are not seeing that large protest in Tobago does not mean that Tobagonians are satisfied at all. As a matter of fact, you need to be more concerned when Tobagonians seem to be pulling back a little bit and being silent on certain things, because they have already made up their minds and they're just waiting for Monday to come.
Well, a quick follow-up. What would be, now that you've gone through the campaigning, the big issues for this election?
So the big issues are several. Tobago has a serious issue with accountability and lack of transparency. We want to know where the money gone.
Yeah.
Yes. We want to know where the zip line money gone. We want to know when the Auditor General says that we can't find all of these documents, we can't account for the monies. That has been a critical thing. Again, healthcare, because we only have that one hospital in Tobago right now that is being completely overrun. I'm getting calls. The healthcare system has practically collapsed in Tobago, which is a scary thought specifically for me, because if and when we win on Monday, I will have to be the one that pulls that back and figure out how to fix all of the things that are not working now in the healthcare system. So that is a critical one. The economy is one that is generally been a concern for Tobagonians, because most people in Tobago know that even before COVID, our economy had crashed. Our economy had, there is practically no economy when you look at the GDP per capita for Trinidad and Tobago being 16 or so thousand US dollars per person, and that of Tobago is about under 4,000 US per person. The economy in Tobago has crashed. COVID has not helped. So we also have to figure out how to bring that back on stream. So those three things, I think, were the main things that Tobagonians are talking about. And there are so many spin-offs of that. But those three things, accountability or lack of accountability, our healthcare system, and the economy, are the main things that Tobagonians are very concerned about.
Well, I guess I don't need to say that. You sound very confident. So that's perhaps a good thing. Now, on that, I want to go back to something you said. You said hopefully you get at least 8 seats so that you may control the THA. Now, the PDP won 6 seats in the last election in January. So I'm assuming that you're referring to retaining the 6 seats that you currently hold. But those 2 other seats, is it that 2 seats you're predicting from the new 3 seats that were created, or perhaps actually snatching 2 from that is being held by the PNM currently?
Now, if I answer that question, that is an internal strategy you're asking me to divulge. But you know, we are confident that all Tobagonians, so it's not just in the East, not just in the seats that we have, but Tobagonians are very clear in their minds about what they want. So we are not going to try to predict. There are some seats that we know are marginal. There are some seats that are very, very close, and we've been working at those, but we've been working throughout the entire island. So we know that we are going to get the at least 8. We would not predict right now, though, where the other 2 will come. But we do hope to retain the 6 that we already have.
Now, I want to get into 2 things. First of all, the National Commission for Self-Help. I'm not sure if you heard of this. They were distributing checks, actually. We know in one instance they were distributing checks between $15,000 and $25,000 for home repairs alone. And this was taking place in Milford Road, Canaan. But the media was actually not informed about it. The media was not invited. And up to now, we don't know how many checks were distributed, how much was actually distributed, but all we know is that people were actually seen signing a document, a piece of paper, going in and walking out with envelopes. Any comment on this? As in, is this something that is, on paper, is this something that is absolutely fine? This is the National Commission for Self-Help, they're doing their job, or is there something perhaps a bit more to this?
So if you look at this entire campaign, this campaign has been the PDP against the entire cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago, the PDP against the entire PNM. And what you've spoken about is just one example of that happening. If you look at the television or the radio in Tobago, if you happen to pick up your phone and go on YouTube or any of these ads, you will see millions of dollars worth of advertisements coming out of the PNM. We estimate they've spent at least $5 million in advertisements alone. We're not even talking about any of the other sub-jerseys or anything like that. This is just pure ads. And what they did with that self-help thing, this is just a perfect example of everything else that they've been trying over the last week or 2. They have commissioned everything on the island within the last week or 2. They've handed over keys to practically everything on the island. They have done sut turning for practically everything. And this is what they've been doing. They've been promising the moon, the stars, everything is what they've been doing over the last week and a half or so. And that is because they also know that Tobagonians are really fed up of them and that they needed to bring out all the stops. So the fact that they did that, I'm not surprised. But again, it's just an example of the entire cabinet coming up against the PDP in this election.
Well, the final question, we have about 30 seconds left, but I quickly need to ask for a comment in relation to the EBC testing a new election, I guess if you want to say strategy, perhaps, in 3 seats in Tobago.
Procedure.
Any comments on this?
Well, the PDP wrote back to the EBC and we very clearly said that we are not in support of this. We completely reject using this process. Now, particularly in this election that is so interesting, particularly at this time and particularly with those seats, because those are some of the new marginal seats. No. We will not accept that. We've said it to them and we expect them to listen to us. We will not accept this new testing of this new system. No, not now. We can have the conversation after Monday, but not on Monday. We will not accept that at all.
Well, Dr. Faith B. Israel, thank you very much for joining us. Again, it's the final lap, so we wish you all the very best. And of course, as you would have pointed out, COVID-19 in Tobago, the situation is a lot worse than compared to Trinidad. So please keep safe and keep well.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Dr. B. Israel. Deputy Political Leader of the Progressive Democratic Patriots, Dr. Faith B. Israel. Folks, we have to break for news on the web very quickly. I need to correct myself. I would have pointed out that it was Gary Aboud in the video that we showed. I called Gary Aboud's name and I must apologize and make the correction. It was not Gary Aboud. I looked at the video and I thought it was. Unfortunately, it was not. I should have put on my glasses perhaps. But I do apologize nevertheless. And I, of course, rescind what I would have said in relation to Mr. Aboud. But those mistakes do happen sometimes. A bit unprofessional, but it does happen. Anyway, folks, let's break for news on the hour. And when we